Welcome to part 3 in my Into the Wild Zimbabwe series on Gonarezhou National Park. This episode is the one about the campsites. So if you're planning a trip to the park and you want to get some inside info on which of the campsites to book, this is definitely the episode for you. There are 21 of these campsites in the park. 15 of them are in the north, 3 of them in the center, and 3 of them in the south. I'm going to take you through each one by one. Just below Chivilila Falls is Chivilila campsite, a beautiful gorge-like setting. The camp is on bare rock, perhaps a little warm in the summer, but in winter the rock keeps you toasty at night. Beautiful, discreet gorge setting, no one else around. And one of the best things about this campsite is it's got a road that leads directly from it alongside the river to the new Nkwangalo-Tilo bridge. And that road is a glorious drive. For a completely different perspective on the Runde River, come here to Runde Gorge, not far from Chipinda Pools. Beautiful shady spot, the campsite. You've got a lovely Kigelia africana tree, a couple of fever trees, and this pretty unique view of the gorge. Coming towards Chilojo cliffs from Fishans Causeway, the first of the 3 camps that you reach is Fishans, with a beautiful big cordyla tree providing shade over the whole camp and a lovely vista across the river, and then looking towards the cliffs to your right. Lights, sound, action. This is Director's Camp. Not actually named because it looks like the setting for a Wild West movie, but it is an epic location with the backdrop of the Chilojo cliffs forming a spectacular background. Right on the edge, another big beautiful cordyla tree giving you plenty of deep shade. Another humongous shade-bearing cordyla tree. Another trans-river view to the elephants on the other side. Another scenic backdrop of the Chilojo cliffs. This is Hlaro campsite. One big difference though with this one. This is the campsite where you will hear lions at night time. Plenty of lion in the vicinity. They're quite shy, they won't come into the camp, but pretty much guaranteed to hear them. If you want the full frontal view of the Chilojo cliffs, then come into this campsite, Chilojo 1, or its neighbor Chilojo 2. They both have spectacular sunset views of the cliffs. If you prefer your game viewing from a safe distance, check out Bopomela camp, where the high riverbank ensures that you can sit in a leisurely manner in the camp looking down on the game below you. Although don't be fooled, plenty of elephants will wander straight through your camp. A little downstream from the Bopomela Causeway, a beautiful elevated prospect over the river. This is Lisoda camp, noted for the fact that there's not a sign of any other camp, road, human habitation anywhere in sight. Chitove campsite, very close to the Chitove Causeway, is one of only 3 camps in the park where you're allowed to fish on the Runde River. The reason you're only allowed in those camps is because those are the only camps where the water is both deep enough and the access is safe enough to allow you to fish. It also has the advantage of having a very sheltered position, so when the wind picks up, as it sometimes does in Gonarezhou, this is the perfect place to be. If you're coming into the park in a large party from the northeast, coming in past Chilojo, then perhaps your first night would be here at Mutamagwenzi, which is very close to the Chitove Causeway. This is one of the transit campsites where you can put a larger party before you all split up into the park. Very beautiful spot, very typical of the riverside camps along this stretch of the Runde River. Of all the camps between Chamulavati and sort of Chitove area, perhaps the least rated one is Pokwe, which I really like because it has an abundance of shade, a beautiful position right on the edge of the river. The river's a wide expanse of sand at this space, and plenty of wildlife to sit and watch from your hammock, chilling in a cool, shady spot. For birdwatchers, Machiniwa Pan is one of the top destinations in Gonarezhou, and it's not hard to see why. This perennial pan is situated very close to the Save-Runde confluence and is one of the top 20 birding sites in the country. Not only birds, there's wildlife in abundance all around the pan. We were listening to no less than 3 different sets of lions roaring in the early morning light this morning. We've also seen buffalo, eland, impala, there's elephant, the hippo, crocodiles of course in the pan. This campsite is beautifully situated right on the edge of the pan. It's all the usual facilities plus a little table, bench and chairs. The perfect place to park off for a few days and do some serious bird watching. Chamulavati campsite right on the Runde, very close to the confluence, has a bit of a reputation as being one of the most child-friendly of all the camps, possibly because it's very close to the river. The river bank is quite short and the river's very shallow here, so not so much risk of crocodiles. Certainly I know many people who describe this as their absolute favorite camp in the park. One of the most highly prized campsites under a full moon is Bhenji Weir. Beautiful double-story platform. You could sleep up top, make a kitchen down below and get an all-night prime view of the hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of elephants that come down to the weir. If you want an utterly secluded experience far from the madding crowd, if there could be said to be any form of madding crowd in Gonarezhou, then come to Tondo camp, wilderness camp, underneath a beautiful big tree right next to a dry riverbed, complete peace and quiet. So there are 3 transit campsites in Gonarezhou. These are campsites for larger parties when they first get into the park. They're not really intended for long stays, more just for overnight stays. The 2 in the north are Mutamagwenzi and Tondo, and then more in the center of the park there is this one, Guluweni. This is on the eastern side at the end of the beautiful drive up the Nyavasikana river. And it's a glorious spot, and I would say probably the most remote spot in the whole of Gonarezhou. Underneath the shade of a magnificent Combretum imberbe leadwood tree, this is Malugwe platform. It's a game viewing platform overlooking the pan. It's also an exclusive campsite. It is a spectacular setting right in the middle of the park, far away from anyone else. How this place isn't booked out every single day of the year is a mystery to me. I consider this to be one of the great gems of this park. For some of us, far from the madding crowd still isn't far enough, and we hanker to be somewhere where we absolutely can guarantee we're not going to see anyone else. Well, if you, kind of like me, are one of those people, then head over to Gorwe. This is the only totally undeveloped campsite in Gonarezhou National Park. It has no facilities whatsoever. Right in the middle of the park, beside a beautiful pan, plenty of wildlife. We just saw eland, zebra, ostrich here, and certainly guaranteed not to see anyone else. They only have a handful of visitors to this campsite throughout the year. When you look at the map, you see the Mwenezi River on the southwest boundary of the park, and it appears that that is the outer edge of the park, which it is. But on the other side of the Mwenezi River is the Malupati Safari area, which has recently come under the management of the Gonarezhou Conservation Trust. So now if you're sitting in any of those camps that are along the Mwenezi River looking over into the safari area, you know you're also looking straight across the river into a protected wildlife area. This is Nyavasikana, which is one of the riverside exclusive campsites. Beautiful little campsite with a lovely view, and the river's nice and close by. Malinangani campsite is on the Watombo loop, right on the edge of the Mwenezi River. It's got a large expanse of sand right in front of it, very close to the camp, and then the river's on the far bank. It's a nicely situated camp with its own little thatch gazebo. It's got a toilet obviously and a braai stand. and it's kind of out of the way. You won't probably see anyone else here, and although it's a rather overcast day today and therefore not getting its best look, it is actually a very pretty sight. Rossi Pools is the easternmost of the campsites along the Mwenezi River. It's got a lovely little gazebo and a breathtaking view looking down over the Mwenezi. I can't absolutely guarantee that you'll have the same beautiful evening sunlight that I do now, but it's pretty likely you will. And that's it, folks, for part 3 of my Into the Wild Zimbabwe series on Gonarezhou National Park, specifically looking at the campsites of the park. Hope you've enjoyed it. There's plenty more. Go check out part 4. If you like what you've seen, you can see a lot more on my Into the Wild Zimbabwe Facebook channel or African Plant Hunter Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And if you really like what you see, you can support me for the price of a cup of coffee a month on patreon.com/African Plant Hunter. All right, take it easy, guys. I will catch you later. Time for a cold one. Bye.